Greetings, I am Moises Jr., the group leader of this OOP project Midterm. Now, I will show you first the UMLet diagram of our project, of course. And then you can see that we have 5 classes here: the clinic, the archive, dentist, client, transaction. I'll show you first the clinic to client relationship. We have the bidirectional association on here, which is meant 0 to many to 1. Why is that? Because client can only have one clinic, but clinic can have multiple objects. And then here, the dentist is aggregated by the clinic because you cannot make the dentist object without the clinic, which is the multiplicity is 1 to 0 to many. Then upper part, we have the archive that is associated by the transaction with the 1 to 1, 1 to many. Then here, the archive is associated by directional, unidirectional, 1 to many, 0 to many. And the multiplicity of the archive to client is 1 to 0 to many, unidirectional associated. And then here, the client and dentist is associated by directional. The client is 1 to 1, then the transaction to dentist is 1 to many, then 1 to many, then 1 to many. Because dentist can have multiple transaction and transaction can have multiple dentist object. And that's all for the UMLet. And now we will proceed to the demonstration of our program. Greetings, I am Moises again. And now this is the code demonstration of our program. We have been given a task to make the Rivera's clinic. Now we are here in the output of our program, which is that have a managed client, managed dentist, managed transaction, and managed archive. We will proceed to the manage client. We can add the client, update the client, view all the client, archive the client. We can view the client because we have the predefined client, which is Andrew, Joshua, Sheena, and Serjano. Now we will show you the details of this client, and that's the view client. Now we are back in the client manager. We can update to Andrew Dejito. We are now entering number 1 because number 1 is Andrew. We will change the Andrew's name, which is Andre Dejito. We will show you the few clients, and now Andrew Dejito is now Andre Dejito. Now let's proceed to the archive clients. We can archive Andre Dejito, and now he is archived. Let's go add client, and name add Moises Jr. Then contact number is 1234569. Then address is Cabuyao, Laguna. And now he is registered in 2025 because 2025 is now, and his ID is 003. Now let's view again, and now I am in the list of the client. Now exit. We can go back to the main menu. Now let's proceed to the manage dentist. In the manage dentist, we can also see the view all dentist, view a transaction, archive dentist, update dentist, and add dentist. I will show you the add dentist first because Dr. Moises, then contact number is random. Then he is from the Sala, Cabuyao. Commission rate, my commission rate is 14. Then my offer is cleaning service, no, yeah, and view all the dentists, and I am in the list. Let's put, I will show you the details, and this is the details of the dentist. Let's archive, let's view the transaction of the dentist. We still don't have the transaction because we don't do transaction yet. Let's go to the archive dentist. Archive dentist Dr. Rivera. He is now in the archive. Let's go back. Then we are in the main menu again. Let's manage a transaction in the manage transaction manager. We can see the transaction, archive transaction, and view all transaction. Let's do a adding transaction. This is the list of clients we want to add. Andre Dejito can will add the transaction. How many services did he avail? We can say that have 2. What services? Filling with Dr. Moises, and then 5 teeth, then tooth whitening by Dr. Mira. Now let's view the transaction by inputting number 2. This is the transaction of Mr. Dejito. He is now on the list. We can input number 1, and this is the details of the of Mr. Andre Dejito. Now let's go back to archive the number 1, and it's already in the archive. let's go back to the archive. Now, let's manage the archive and view archive client. Here, the archive client that we added earlier. Let's say the details, and here the client. Now, let's go to the archive dentist, which is the Dr. Rivera. That's input number 1, and this is the detail of Dr. Rivera. And 3, the transaction data. Input number 1, which is here, same as earlier. And now let's go back to main menu. Let's say that I input in wrong number. That will not be an error, of course. Here, invalid input, then input that's not the choice. And this provide choices. And input 0 to exit, and because that's all for our demonstration. And this is the logo of Dr. Rivera. And that's all for the demonstration. And now we will proceed to the classes explanation on how they are working.
Greetings everyone, my name is BENEDICT Bajado. So I'm going to explain this method, archive manager. So the archive manager contains this table, and it will print you this table. So it asks you what do you want to view, if it is client, dentist, or transaction data. So if you click one, it will, and if the list is empty, so it will print you no archive client data. If the statement is false, it will land you here, and it will print all the possible data of the client, same as this one. So if the list is empty, again it will print there no archive data on the dentist data, and if it's false, it will print all the possible data of the dentist. And if you click 3, so it will, and if the list is empty, again it will came up to the end, it will print the archive transaction. There are no archive transaction data, and similar as the other two. If it's the statement on this part is false, then it will print you on this part, and it will list all the possible data of the transaction. Greetings. So now I'm going to explain this part. So this one asks for a long value. So if the input is valid, so this one will be executed, so it will start on this part. So if it's not, so this one will be executed too. It will print invalid input type. And similar to this method asks for an integer. So this, if it's the input is valid, so this one will be executed. So if it's invalid, so this one will be executed so too, and it will print invalid type. On this part, similar as the 2, but it will ask for a double input. So if the input is not valid, so, or if it's not double, so so if it's not double, so this one will be executed too, and executed, so this one will be executed. So if the statement if the input is valid, so this one will be executed.
Greetings, I am Gab Amen, and I am here to proceed with the discussion of the other methods used in the main class. The add dentist option method, it is used to add dentist to the clinic. It asks for the dentist details like name, contact number, commission rate, and it asks which services the dentist offers and stores them into the Boolean array. It creates a dentist object, and after that, it prints a confirmation along with the dentist ID. Next is the client option, where it adds client to the clinic. This has the same structure with the add dentist method. Next is the process transaction option. It is a method that is used to allow a client to choose and book dental services. It checks for the dentist. It ensures that there are dentists available before proceeding. Also checks for the client, and it also provides an option to add a new client. The user can select a client from the list. The user can also choose the number of services that he or she can avail. This stores the information for the transaction processing. For the dentist assigning of dentist, this retrieves the dentist who offer the selected service. The chosen dentist is assigned to the service, and they are removed from the available dentist list to prevent duplication. And this is where the calculation of price occurs, where it uses a service type and take count to determine the price. And to finalize the transaction, a transaction object is created with the client, operating dentist, services, prices, and the number of teeth. And this is where the transaction process. This is the method for the transaction process. And after that, it prints a message of the transaction ID. Next method is the employed dentist, where it adds and creates and adds 3 dentists to the clinic with the predefined details. Next is the add client, where it also has the same structure as the employed dentist. Next is the exit logo, where it prints a message or a logo of a tooth along with a exit message in the middle of it.
Good day, my name is Sheena Elise Manalo and I'll be discussing the Client Manager, Update Client, Display Clients, Archive Manager, Transaction Manager, Display Transaction, Dentist Manager, Display Transaction Report, and Archive Dentist methods. So for the Client Manager method, users get a submenu to manage clients. They can add, view, update, or archive client records. It keeps running until they choose 0 to go back to the main menu. Each option calls a specific method to handle the task. So for the case 2, display clients, the display client method lists all the registered clients by using clinic.display registered clients. It first shows a formatted table of client names and IDs, then asks the user to pick one to view the details. If 0 is entered, it will exit. So for the case 3, the update client, so the update client method lets the user edit a client's name, contact number, or address. The method first prints a formatted table listing all the registered clients, showing their number, ID, and name. A loop iterates through clinic.getClients to display each client's details in an organized format. The user then selects a client and chooses which detail to modify. If they pick name or address, they type in a new value. For contact numbers, the input is validated. The update is applied immediately and ensuring the records stay accurate. The Archive Manager method, it lets the users view archive clients, dentists, and transaction. It keeps running until the user enters 0 to go back to the main menu. When a user picks an option, the system first checks if there is any archive data. If none exists, it shows a message and returns to the menu. If there are records, it lists them and asks the user to select one to see more details. The code uses clinic.getArchive, .getClientList, getDentistList, and the getTransactionList to access the archive data. Each type has its own method to display records, like display archive clients for clients. If a user selects a record, data string prints the details, while transaction use display detailed transaction. The system makes sure the user enters a valid number and 0 exit the submenu. This keeps everything organized and avoids the error when there is no data. For the Transaction Manager and Display Transaction, the Transaction Manager method displays a submenu for adding, viewing, or archiving transaction. The program runs until 0 is entered. The Display Transaction method, it lists transactions and allows user to view details. In the code, Display Transaction first checks if the clinic.getTransaction is empty. If it is empty, it displays a message that there are no recorded transactions. Otherwise, it formats transactions in a table. It validates input and shows the details using display detailed transaction. For the Dentist Manager, Display Transaction Report, and Archive Dentist, the Dentist Manager method handles the dentist-related tasks, showing a submenu with options to add, view, update, and archive dentist, as well as view a dentist transaction. It runs in a loop until 0 is selected. The method calls the appropriate function based on the user's choice. So for the Display Transaction Report, the Display Transaction Report allows users to check a dentist transaction history. It first lists all the employed dentists and asks the user to pick one. If the list is empty or 0 is chosen, it exits. Otherwise, it calls Generate Transaction Report Dentist, which retrieves and displays the dentist transaction history. So for the Archive Dentist method, it moves a dentist data to the archive. It displays the list of employed dentists and asks the user to select one for archiving. If 0 is entered, it cancels. Otherwise, Archive Dentist is called, transferring the selected dentist information to the archive for record keeping.
So, don't all greetings, I'm Joshua Lopez and I will explain the clinic class. So, in here, the clinic class, we have attributes such as years, ID counter, name, list of dentists, list of clients, list of transaction, and the archive. In the years, it stores the years registered of the different clients. For the ID counter, it's the counter for the ID of the clients. So, we have name, list of dentists, clients, transaction, archive. For the constructor, we accept name and archive as parameters and store its values in our attributes. And we also initializes our lists. And also we set the archive of we set the clinic of the archive to this. And here we have a getter method for name, dentist, clients, transactions, and archive. So for the employee dentist, it's just a method that adds the dentist to the list with a validation in which it checks first if the dentist is employed. For the unemployed dentist, it just removes a dentist from our system. And for the add client, just like the employee dentist, it also adds the client to our system, but first checks if the system already has the client, and it also generates the ID of the client in a format that is from the program requirements. So here in the process transaction is a method that adds the transaction object to the transactions list, and also adds the transaction object to all the dentists involved in that transaction, and also adds the transaction object to the client involved in that transaction. Next, for the display transaction, it just display all the transaction in a table format.
Greetings. I am Mag-usara and I will be continuing the clinic class. So here we have the archive client method that accepts a single client as its parameter. The program checks if the client to be archived is already in the client's list of the archive class. If not found, then it adds the client to the list, but if found, it will print out that the client has already been archived. Next is archive dentist and archive transactions methods. It basically does the same thing as the archive client method but for dentists and transactions. Next is display employed dentist. It displays all the employed dentists in the clinic in a table format. It prints out the ID and name of the dentists in the table. Same goes with the display registered clients down here. Next is get dentists by service method that accepts a list of available dentists and an integer name service choice. So basically, what this method does is return a list of the dentists offering the service available by the client. It loops through the available dentists. Then when the dentist is found offering the same service, it will be added in the dentists with service list, which will be returned after the loop. The client will choose between the dentists in the list. The chosen dentist will be removed from the available dentists list, meaning that the dentist can perform 2 or more services to the same client. Next is generate transaction method that accepts a single dentist as its parameter. This method will generate all the transactions done by a dentist. It will print out the transaction ID, client name, and the service the dentist performed on the client in a table format. This indexes list here stores the index of what service the dentist performed per transaction. Lastly, the generate client ID method that accepts a single client as its parameter. So we have 2 lists here, one for years and one for ID counter. To explain how this works the simplest, the years will store the various years, various clients registered. The index of a particular year will have the same index as its ID counter in the ID counter list. If the client registers in 2025, 2025 will be added in the years list and 0 will be added in the ID counter list. Then the ID generated will be 2025-0001 as the ID counter will increment. If another client registered in 2025, the year will not be added in the years list and only the corresponding ID counter will increment. And that's all the methods in the clinic class.
Greetings, I am Delmonte and I will explain the dentist class. So the dentist class in the clinic management system represents a dentist with attributes ID, name, contact, address, commission, services, transactions, and clinic. The ID is auto-incremented using a static counter while transactions store records of service provided. The constructor initializes a dentist with provided details and an empty transaction list. The getter methods get ID, get name, get commission, get transactions, and get services allow access to these attributes. Next, the add transaction method. The add transaction method adds a new transaction if it is not already present. Otherwise, it prints a message indicating the service is already recorded.
Greetings. I'm Christian Barnes and I will be explaining the client class. The client class stores and manages information about clients such as ID, name, contact number, address, and year they registered. It also stores information like the clinic they are associated with and the list of transactions or services they received. First up, we have the class attributes. Following that, we have the class constructor. And then we have the getter and setter methods. We also have the add transaction method, which checks if the transaction already exists in the list. If yes, it prints the message, this service is already offered by doctor plus the doctor's name. If no, it adds the transaction to the list. After that, we have the string minimize method. It returns a short version of the client details. And then lastly, we have the toString method. What it does is it prints the client details in a table-like structure and uses the string format for proper spacing or alignment.
So I'm JORICK Farinas. I will be explaining our transaction class. So this transaction class handles the transactions of the clinic management system. So now here we got our class fields. Here we got our constructor where we initialize it with the values that were needed for our transaction. This part we got our getters and setter methods. And going to our class methods, we have a method called compute total bill where we compute the total bill for our transaction. Now we have a display method that will display the transaction in a minimized format where it only includes the name, the transaction ID, and the offered services. Now we have our count method where we count the total of services that was availed by the client. Now we also have our total teeth where we count the total teeth that was included in the transaction. Now here in the detailed transaction, as you can see, we have the detailed breakdown of what's inside the transaction. So it includes the client details, the service provided, the dentist commission, and the total cost breakdown, and lastly with the unique transaction ID for our transaction. So that will be for our transaction class.
Greetings, I am Dejito and today I will explain some of the methods in the transaction class. So first we have here the public get transaction ID. So in this method, ginagawa niya lang is nagbibigay siya ng transaction ID with a specific client transaction. So dito kinukuha yung client, get client ID which includes the year and the pang ilan siyang client during that year and the transaction ID na naka-increment sa ating attributes. Then next is the public double compute total bill. So dito, ang ginagawa naman nito is binibilang niya yung total bill ni dentist depende sa mga service na ginawa niya. So dito, kinakalculate yung service total is equal and add to the dentist get commission and yung prices ng ilang service yung ginawa niya. So next is the get price. So dito, we have to get price. First, meron tayo dito get price na may type and teeth as its parameters. So dito natin kinukuha yung price ng mga services na nagre-require ng kung gaano karami yung teeth. Then, meron tayo dito kung check and cleaning 600, tooth whitening 500, then fillings 1,000 kung gaano karami yung teeth, and tooth extraction 700 and kung gaano karami yung teeth. Dito naman is get price which only has type as its parameter. So dito, inaalam natin kung gaano kamahal yung price ng service na kinuha ni user na hindi nagre-require ng bilang ng tip. Public index of dentist. So dito is inaalam natin kung pang ilang index or nasan yung index ni dentist doon sa ating transaction.
So I'm JORICK Farinas. I will be explaining the archive class. So this archive class handles the archive dentist clients and transaction in our clinic system. So we have our class fields. So we have the name of the archive, the reference to the clinic. So and we also have a list of objects that were archived. So now going to our constructor, it initialize a archive object with name and empty list of archive dentist clients and transactions, saying we haven't input any archive transactions. We also have our getter methods here. So going to our class methods, we have a display archive dentist where we only display the details of the archive dentist. So we have a archive client, so same as archive dentist, it only displays the details of archive client. So now for this, we have a display archive transaction where we display all the transactions that were archived. So it will be displayed in a full details with the ID of the client name, the dentist, and the service they performed. So that will be for our archive class.